What's up, jackalopes? I'm Hope, and today I'm going to be doing my TBR for January. As you might be able to tell behind me, I have a large board. And if you've seen some of my other videos, you might know that I've been doing a TBR Betrayal game that's based on Betrayal at the House on the Hill. And what I've been doing is using the actual game pieces from that game to pick my TBR. But I discovered very quickly that that becomes very impractical because it is very difficult to get all the tiles in frame. And so I thought, why don't I just take TBR Betrayal and revamp it. It's still based on the same board game, but I've changed it up a little bit to make it easier to film because now I just have this board here and some cards that I've made, which look like this. And there's ones for the events, items, and omens. Plus, I have an additional new one, which are challenge cards, which are intended to replace the kind of challenge rooms in the original game. With all of that said, there have been a few rule changes to TBR Betrayal. The whole concept is still the same, but I had to make some adjustments to make it work with this new board. The first of these is that I'm going to use a random number generator to pick one of the 12 characters along the sides of the board. And these are all characters who are from books that I really like. They're all characters that I really love. So I'll pick one of these 12 characters, and that character will only be used once. After that, they're retired for the rest of the year. They've had their turn. That way we're not getting like the same character over and over again. I also have decided that instead of their speed stat being the number of books that I need to have on my TBR, their knowledge stat is going to be the number of books I need to have on my TBR. Because, you know, books are knowledge. So I thought that that was just a little more fitting since I am now utilizing the other stats. To progress along the board, I'm going to roll 2 dice, which are the dice from the original game, which look like this, and they have 0, 1, and 2 on them, so the most spaces I can move at any given time, using 2 dice, will be 4. I didn't want to progress through the house too quickly and have it get to a point where I'm just like finishing the house, you know, every other month or something. So I'll be able to move up to 4 tiles, and I do have some challenge cards which may affect that. Other than that, mostly it stays the same. If I land on one of the event tiles, then I pull an event card and those are prompts. If I land on an item tile, those are modifiers, and so those will be applied to the next event that I pull. If I pull an event, if I don't, it'll carry over to the next month. And then omen cards are still specific titles that I need to add to my TBR. And the rules remain the same, that if I can't find something for a prompt that I've pulled, I have to pull one of the prompts from my backup stock of prompts and pick 2 books for it. Also, if I have an item that is completely incompatible with the next prompt that I draw, that item has to be carried over to the next prompt after that. So that I'm still using the items, and they also don't stack. Item cards don't stack because I could see that getting extremely difficult to find something for very quickly, so I can use them individually. The last kind of tile that is here that was not in the original one, but does correspond with some of the hallway tiles in the original game, are these blank tiles, and those are just going to be mood reads. So if I land on a blank tile, I can just pick whatever I want to read later in the month when I get to it. I will also still be doing haunt rolls after each omen, which come from the original game. So if I roll a number that is above the number of omens that have been drawn at that point, then play continues as normal. But if I get to a point where I roll a number below the number of omen cards that have been pulled at that point, then the haunt begins and I will be pulling a monster chip, and that monster chip will give me some sort of modifier that has to apply to every book for the following month. Again, similar to my old version, if I complete the house, then I get to just put whatever I want to fill up the rest of the slots on my TBR. Although they won't be mood reads, I will be picking something for those. And if I fail to complete a TBR, I'm actually adapting a rule that is from G from Book Roast's TBR Avatar game. So she has a rule where if she fails to complete a TBR, she has to move backwards a certain number of tiles, and I'm going to be doing the same thing here. So if I fail to complete a TBR, the number of books that I've left unread is the number of tiles I have to move backward, and that wherever I land doesn't count as like a prompt or something that I have to pull, but it is my new starting point for the next month. I think that's basically all of the rules though. I know that was a lot to listen to. I made some changes, but hopefully it's still clear and it's not too confusing, but I think it'll make a lot more sense once we get started. And on that note, let's get started. Alright, before we start rolling, let's run through all of the characters that we have. So on the far side, we have Elizabeth Bennet from Pride and Prejudice. We have Circe from Circe by Madeline Miller. We have Lucy Honeychurch from A Room with a View by E.M. Forrester. Maya from The Goblin Emperor by Catherine Addison. Louis from Interview with a Vampire by Anne Rice, Victor Frankenstein from Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, and then on this side we have Trent from Dying is My Business and Die and Stay Dead by Nicholas Kaufman. We have Hercule Poirot from Agatha Christie's Poirot series. I specifically have The Murder of Roger Ackroyd here because that's my favorite one so far. We have Dorian Gray from The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde, Lestat de Lioncourt from The Vampire Lestat by Anne Rice, Ambassador Mahit from A Memory Called Empire by Arcady Martin, and last but not least, we have Frodo Baggins from The Lord of the Rings. So now what we're going to do is use a random number generator to figure out who we will be playing for this month. Let me just pull that up on my phone real quick. So, here's the number, and 2, starting from the left, is Cersei. So, let me grab Cersei's token. I just printed out a bunch of the little book covers to serve as tokens, so it'd be easy to tell who I was playing, and also who wouldn't be coming up again in the following months. We'll put Cersei at the start point. Cersei has a knowledge stat of 4, so I need to have 4 books on my TBR for January. And now let's actually start rolling. So, we got a 1. So Cersei is going to go here, and that is an event. So, what's our prompt? Okay, so I have to read a book that was recently added to my TBR. Hey guys, Editing Hope here. The day that I filmed this, I was having the worst time describing this book, and actually I still kind of having trouble describing this book, and I don't know why, but we're gonna try this again. So, anyway, for recently added, I'm gonna be reading Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas, which follows a young man named Yadriel who is trans, and he's trying to prove himself to his traditional family by completing the ritual to become a brujo, which his family is a part of this community that watches over a cemetery, and the women are healers, the men are in charge of keeping up the cemetery and of helping lost souls and spirits reach the afterlife. And so he goes through this ritual to become a brujo in secret, and he tries to summon a spirit and help release it to the afterlife to prove that he is a brujo and kind of gain the acceptance of his family. Things don't go quite as planned, however, when an attempt to summon the spirit of his recently murdered cousin Miguel results in him actually summoning the school's resident bad boy Julian and getting stuck with him and having to help him finish his unfinished business so that he can release Julian to the afterlife. And it's about their adventures, and it's also about the relationship that forms between them. So I'm very excited about this book. I've actually started it already. I'm not sure which direction the camera is there, but I'm like 70 pages in, and I'm really enjoying it so far. So that's my recently added pick. So let's see where our next roll takes us. Try not to drop the dice. We got a 2. Down 2, and that, I don't know if it's super clear on camera, we'll find out, but that is an item tile. So I'm getting a modifier that will have to be applied to my next prompt that I get. So my next prompt will have to be a book published before 2015. And since that's not adding a specific book, I'm not actually picking something for that item until I get a prompt to go with it. Let's keep rolling. Okay, we got a 3. I'm like trying not to drop the dice every time I do that. So we got 1, 2, 3. And that's interesting because it is a blank, which means that it's a mood read slot. So I will get to pick a mood read whenever I get to it. I'm just gonna pick it when I get to it. The mood read one I'm not gonna actually pick until I get to it later in the month when I get to the point where I'm gonna read it. But I did want to hop in here with a few things that I think are pretty likely to be the mood read pick that I decide on. The first thing that I think is probably the most likely that I'll pick is A Court of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J. Maas. This is the companion novel to the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. It's what I like to refer to as the Christmas special. So if I don't end up reading A Court of Frost and Starlight, I think the perhaps next 2 most likely options are The House of Shattered Wings by Aliette de Bodard and The Angel of the Crows by Catherine Addison. I'm holding them up together because they're vaguely similar. So this one is a murder mystery set in Gothic Paris, but it's ruled by fallen angels, and there's other kinds of creatures in here as well, and it's set during the fallout of a war in heaven. This one is the Sherlock Holmes retelling that's set in Victorian London, except there's also like vampires and hellhounds and angels and things, and the actual Sherlock character is an angel named Crow. So kind of similar vibes, but I think that one of these would be most likely to be my mood read pick if I don't end up picking up Court of Frost and Starlight. So with that mood read, I now have 2 books on my TBR, so let's roll again. We got a 0. That's not gonna work. Just not gonna stay put. That's one thing I didn't plan for, is what to do with 0, so if you have any ideas, please let me know. And this time we got a 2. So I'm gonna move up 1, 2, and another event prompt. So I need to read a TBR veteran. Don't drop the card, so that's not what you want to do. And it needs to be a TBR veteran that was published before 2015. For a TBR vet that was published before 2015, I actually want to finish a book I started a few months ago. This is The Vampire Lestat by Anne Rice, and yes, I know he's on the board. I needed another character, and I really like Lestat. I've read about 100 pages. I really liked him in this book, so we decided to go with it. I'm pretty convinced that I'm gonna love this book anyway. It's definitely gonna be a 4 or 5 star for me, I'm pretty sure. So we're rolling with it. But I started this a few months ago. Like I said, I got about 100 pages in, and then I set it down. I was in a slump. I didn't feel like reading anything because I set several things that I was really enjoying down at the same time. And now I'm finally gonna finish it. 3 books on the TBR, we just need 1 more. Let's see where the last, well, not last roll technically, not unless I get another book. Let's see where it takes us. It's another 0. Thrilling. Try again. And we got a 1. And that takes us to an omen tile. So this will be a specific book I need to read. And it's The Devotion of Suspect X by Keigo Higashino. And then my omen pick is The Devotion of Suspect X by Keigo Higashino. This is a murder mystery that's sort of a whodunit more than a whodunit. I've read one other book by him that had this similar format where it was a detective trying to figure out why a murder was committed more so than figuring out who committed it. But this one is the beginning of a series that's the Detective Galileo series. And I think they're still translating these into English. I think a few of them are currently in English. But this one follows well, obviously it follows Detective Galileo, who is actually a mathematician who is brought in to help the police in various instances when they know that there's a pattern and they can't figure it out. Because he's really good at like noticing things and pulling together patterns and stuff like that. So in this instance, a woman kills, I believe it's her ex-husband or her husband or something. She kills somebody. It doesn't actually say who. She kills a man, and then her neighbor helps her cover it up. And so Detective Galileo, in order to establish a motive, it needs to figure out why the woman killed the guy, and also why is the neighbor helping her cover up the crime. So it's more about why these things happened than it is about who did them, because obviously the back tells us exactly who did them. I really liked the other one I read by this author, and I enjoyed that format, so I think that I'll probably like this one as well. Also, since I pulled an omen card, I need to do a haunt roll to ensure that I'm not starting the haunt and setting myself up to have a modifier for all of next month, which means I need to roll 6 dice and hopefully roll less than a 1. Or sorry, hopefully roll more than a 1. I don't want to roll less than a 1. If I get all 0s, I'll be shocked that I've started the haunt this early, but I definitely rolled more than 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're safe. So these are all of the books that I need to read in January 2021, plus a mood read book that I obviously will choose later. But I think that this is a really doable stack. This is going to be the hardest one, The Vampire Lestat, because I know that her writing is a little bit dense and flowery, and it's also a 500-page book. So this is definitely going to be the densest of the books that I'm going to be reading, unless I, for some reason, stupidly pick something else really dense for my mood read. But yeah, I think this is doable. I'm really excited about these. I did try to pick these in such a way to give myself some variety, because I had a murder mystery and I have some more murder mysteries I might pick up for my mood read. And I have, you know, a monster book, kind of a horror gothic thing. And then I picked a nice YA book that I've been looking forward to reading. So I'm really excited about all of these and I'm looking forward to reading them. Hopefully I will be able to read all of them in January. I am also taking some English classes in January, so there will be more that I will be reading, but I don't know what they are yet because the syllabi haven't been posted yet. So we'll see about that. Hopefully I'm able to get through all of these. And that's basically all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm hoping that you enjoyed my new TBR game, or rather my new version of my TBR game, and I would love to get some feedback from you guys on whether you think this works or whether it doesn't. If you have any ideas for what to do if I roll a 0, because that kept happening to me, that would be really appreciated if you have any ideas you'd like to share. And I would also love to know your thoughts on these books, if you read them, or if you have other books to recommend. So, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.